today's call is going to be for the ladies who are focusing on rewiring the way that they think, the way that they think about themselves, the way that they react to things, the way that they judge or beat themselves up. So if you are or have been really focusing on that internal growth right now, this is going to be for you, okay? Or like that self-love kind of journey. So first thing I want to just say out loud, just because you need to hear it. It is okay to have negative thoughts. It is okay to have negative self-talk in your head. That is totally okay. All right? This self-love journey is not about removing the negative. Okay? We can't just focus there. It's about increasing the positive and not letting the negative affect us as much. But it's not about removing the negative. Okay? So that needs to be very clear, ladies, because when we have these negative thoughts pop up, negative self-talk, we can't beat ourselves up. You can't judge yourself for it. You can't get upset that it's there because it doesn't mean you are failing. It does not mean you are failing at learning and growing on this self-love journey. It doesn't, okay? And then there's this quote that goes, suffering is inevitable. It is written in the human script. Suffering is inevitable. To be human is to suffer. And if there's suffering, there's definitely going to be some negative thoughts along the way. So negative is okay to have it in your mind. We beat ourselves up too much for feeling bad. You don't need to. That's thing number one I want to bring to your attention. If you've been hyper-focused on what's happening in your mind and how you think and how you view yourself, okay? A lot of the times, getting upset at the negative thoughts does more damage than the actual negative thought itself. Right? Getting upset over feeling bad usually does far worse than the actual negative thought if we were just to sit with it and let it pass. Right? So I want you to think about, have you gotten upset with yourself lately? Show of hands, who's gotten upset with themselves lately? Either I like messed up a little bit, or I embarrassed myself, or I failed, or I'm talking too negatively about myself, I'm judging myself, I feel guilty. Is that helping you at all? Getting upset at yourself, did it help you at all? Almost never, right? So it's okay if the negative is there. We have to let go of the fact that we're trying to get rid of it. That will never happen. You will never 100% get rid of the negative. So stop feeling bad every time it comes around. That's thought number one I just want to cover really quick, okay? Thought number two, okay? Who's heard of the phrase, fake it till you make it? Who's heard of that one before? Fake it till you make it, right? This is a great phrase. This is something that I used a lot as a younger woman and a teenager. I faked my confidence until one day I had it, so it definitely works. It's a great little tactic. However, this is important. If you find yourself faking it till you make it too frequently, meaning every time you're going through something that you don't want to be in or you think you could do better in, you try to manipulate your emotions and speed through the negative of it. So faking it till you're making it, pretending you're positive when you're not. If that's happening too frequently, ladies, so every time there's something bad or negative happening, you're blowing right past it. If that's happening often, okay, what ends up happening is we start to believe that feeling bad is wrong. We build this connection that feeling bad, being sad, being angry, being anxious, that these are wrong. These are not right to feel these things. You know what I mean? If we fake it till we make it and we try to skip over these bad emotions, the ones that don't sit well with us, because we're trying to be a more positive person and grow, if we do that too much, you are subconsciously telling yourself that it is wrong to feel bad because you're always trying to rush through it. And then guess what happens? We now start to feel bad about feeling bad, right? How crazy is that? We can't just feel bad. Oh no, we got to feel bad. Then we have to feel bad about feeling bad. How crazy is that? You've just overcomplicated it for yourself. It's nuts. It's so funny. It's very ironic. So be very careful when you feel, so I want you to think about the last time you felt bad for whatever reason, whether you caused it, something, someone else caused it. When you felt bad, did you feel bad about feeling bad? Did you tell yourself, I shouldn't be feeling this, right? Or did you try to put a smile on and push through it and fake it real quick because you didn't want someone else to know, or you didn't feel right feeling it, right? If that's happening to you, be careful, okay? Because what you start to program into your body is that feeling bad is wrong, right? And can you go through life feeling right 100% of the time, feeling good 100% of the time? No way, no way, right? Nothing you feel is wrong. Not one feeling is ever wrong. And when you try to push past it and we try to pretend that they don't exist, then we're telling ourselves that they are wrong. And that's a dangerous place to be. So I want you to analyze yourself and see if that's what you've been doing, right? Instead of pushing past something that makes you uncomfortable or you're not proud of, sit with it for a second, understand it. And when you understand it, it doesn't really hold power. You only feel bad about something if you don't know how to fix it or make it better, right? And you will never be able to fix it or make it better if you skim over it, right? You won't. You haven't given yourself the opportunity. You're missing out. You're really missing out. So be very aware of that. Okay, that's the second thing I wanted to talk to you about. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about, but devaluing what you feel is something that I see particularly in women, and this shows up like this. So we often devalue what we feel by saying things like, you know, I'm too blessed. I shouldn't be feeling sad or upset about that, right? Or somebody has it worse off than me, right? You ever say those things to yourself before? They are great little tools. They can definitely give you perspective in tough times, absolutely. However, if that's something, again, that you catch yourself saying frequently because you're avoiding that negative space, right? What happens here is now you've created this connection that your feelings are lies. Your feelings aren't truthful to you, right? So you're telling yourself when you feel this thing that you don't think you're justified in feeling, right? I shouldn't feel sad because someone else has it worse off than me, right? When you're saying things like that, you're saying that even though you feel sad, that's not true. So now your feelings are lying to you. And that is a very, very scary place to be when you don't trust your own feelings. That's when you lose connection with your gut, right? Do you have a very strong gut sense, right? Like your gut talks to you, your intuition. If you don't, it's because you don't trust your own feelings, because you've been talking yourself out of feeling them. So pay very close attention to how you devalue what you're feeling, right? You are completely justified in everything you feel ever. Justified because you felt it. It was real. It is justified simply because you felt it. Seriously, that's all it takes, right? You do not need to justify it in any other way. And anybody who tells you different is trying to gaslight you, right? You're justified for feeling the way that you do just by simply having that emotion happen. Now, you don't have to continue feeling that way. That's where that change happens. That's where that power happens. But you do not need to make yourself feel bad or try to devalue, de-justify, unjustify why you felt it in the first place. Because we feel guilty. We feel judged. We feel bad for feeling bad, right? Brings it back to my original point here. You're allowed to have negative emotions, okay? You are not failing your self-love, weight loss, health journey simply because you have a couple negative thoughts pop in or a couple slumps and ruts and bad days, okay? Now, the last thing I want you to talk about, or I want to talk about, is when we have these moments, okay? Oftentimes, depending on how hyper aware you are or how focused you are on this part of your journey right now, what we do to try and get over the negative things is we try to figure out why we feel them, right? Has anybody done that before? Like, why am I acting this way? Where did this thought come from, right? We start to kind of backtrack and find out why. And again, definitely has its purpose, because a lot of the times why you do something isn't really why you did it, right? Or doing the thing isn't the problem, it's just the outlet, right? So there's a lot of deeper layers here. But what I would caution you here is when we ask ourselves why too much, guess what we start to do? We get into a rabbit hole. We go back and we go back and we go back into our childhood, into blaming our parents. Then we look at the trauma we had, right? And then all that you've just done is made a huge list of everything that's wrong with you. And that did the exact opposite that you were expecting it to do, right? Who's done that one before? Like, why am I doing this? And then your end result is, oh, I am really fucked up. That didn't help. Did not help, right? Super overwhelming. You have all this deep trauma you forgot or you didn't know was there, and then you have no idea how to handle it. You were not equipped to go that deep into the rabbit hole. So if you catch yourself like wondering why, what I would suggest is instead of saying why in general, I would say, why today? Why are you feeling this today? And that will give you much more perspective. Today I had a rough day at work. Today I got into a fight with my spouse, right? Today I sprained my ankle, right? Like, why are you feeling that way today? That will give you much more clarity. That will give you much more perspective on how temporary that feeling is, right? And it won't put you in a worse off state because you just have a laundry list of everything that's wrong with you that you now have to tackle when you just had one negative thought in the first place. And now we have everything that we ever did wrong in front of us, right? So ask yourself, why today? And an example of this, actually, on the weekend, I got an email from a Fit Queen. And the email was along the lines of, I'm feeling really down today. I'm feeling really anxious about my body. I'm feeling more bloated than usual. I'm really uncomfortable in my skin. Just not a good day for this lady. And then it turns out, so I asked myself, why today? Why is she feeling this today? Out of all days, today was like the low day. And then it turns out, guess what she was doing that day? She had to go to a water park with her family. So that means she had to be in a bathing suit. Very uncomfortable, very vulnerable position, right? If we didn't acknowledge that fact, what would have happened is she would have thought there was something wrong with her, right? Why am I feeling like this? I don't know where it's coming from. Oh my God, how long is this going to last? You know, I'm really vulnerable right now. I'm going to make bad decisions. I'm going to eat my feelings because it all seems pointless, right? If you don't bring to the attention why today, there's a much closer end in sight than why in general. So that is a great tip for you to follow, ladies. So just a quick recap of everything I talked today. If you are somebody that prides yourself on number one, personal growth, and number two, you're really focused on learning more self-love right now, don't get stuck in the traps that I went over today. Don't think that the negative will go away. Don't judge yourself for having those negative thoughts. Don't try to fake it past those negative thoughts, okay? Because then you're gonna make yourself feel bad for feeling bad, okay? And don't devalue your thoughts and your feelings. Don't devalue them, because then you're now telling yourself they're not true and you're losing a connection with your intuition. And then lastly, ask yourself why today. Cut it at the day. And you will thank me, I promise. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole. All right? So if you take anything away from this call today, ladies, watch your perspective. Be inquisitive. Be analytical. Right? Like, question yourself. Question yourself. Why are you feeling what you're feeling? But keep it to the span of today. And that will give you much more knowledge and much more clarity than, you know, going back into your childhood trauma and all of that. Although it's valid and has its place, immediate reflection usually never ends well, right? You got to sit down and make time for that type of reflection. If you're in a slump, if you're judging yourself for being negative, that's the last thing you want to do, is going to put yourself down even more. So have the negativity, ladies, right? That quote one more time: suffering is inevitable. It is part of the human script. It is in our script. It is written for us. We will suffer. To suffer is to be human. Being alive is a beautiful curse. It really is. So be aware of that. Give yourself grace, right? Self-love is not loving yourself all the time. Self-love is loving yourself even when you are unlovable in your own eyes. It is learning that you go through seasons and phases. And you love your best friend through those seasons and phases. And you love your family members through those seasons and phases. You got to learn to love yourself through those seasons and phases. So don't judge a single emotion you feel. Don't justify a single emotion you feel. Don't speed past a single emotion you feel. That's part of this journey. It is more an emotional journey than a physical journey. If you haven't noticed by now, way more emotion. You should be a completely different person. Every month you've learned something new and accomplished something deeper. And that's the beauty of it. Don't cheat yourself out of it by judging yourself every step of the way or comparing yourself to something that doesn't even make sense, right? You are perfectly imperfect. As long as you are trying to better yourself, and in the face of obstacles and challenges and negativity, you don't bow down. Maybe you have to crawl for a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. We're all here crawling at different points, myself included. Really. Crawling really slow sometimes. But that's the fun of it, because you get to make it past it where you're standing up and sprinting again. And then you can look back and say, I'm a badass. Because you earned that sprint. Earn your sprint. No one will just give it to you, and you won't want it if it's just given. All right, ladies? So take that today, sit with yourself, analyze some of the bad habits or tricks we fall into when trying to learn self-love. There's lots of tricks within it that keep us stagnant. So pay attention to everything I just talked about. You could be in a couple of those traps and not realizing it, even though you're thinking you're doing well, right? We can always do better. So think about that. Pick one or two of those things that you think you're doing, and then just flip it a little bit and be aware of it. That's half the battle. And I would love to hear how it goes. I would love to hear what you recognized, because it's so funny. We think we're doing good. We think we've got it all figured out, and then something happens and we're like, oh, wow, not so much. And that's what I would hope for this call. I want you to feel like you're in the right direction. I want you to feel like you've been putting in the work, but I also want you to take a chance and see, where can I improve? Where am I actually still tricking myself and holding on to a bad habit that's disguised as a good one?